So, no matter how the evolutionists or atheists want to play this game of millions and billions of years, it's not going to go their way.
I have something for you, young man. Ooh, watch yourself, it's the claw! Ooh, the claw's coming at you.
Folks, this is why our side is so powerful, and this is why evolutionists and atheists, they fail every time. Because they're
scared of the claw. You're scared of the claw. Ooh.
Their theory itself is based on fiction films rather than reality.
Let's ditch him and go to the movies.
Welcome to Project Nihilist Everyone, where I talk about videos I've seen of people saying stupid things, like this guy, Matt Powell, in his video titled 5 Powerful Reasons Creation is True. In case you don't know what creation is, in this instance it's about a 6,000-year-old universe, and it was created by Jesus, and Noah was a real-life person. Here's the thing, I don't care what anyone believes, as long as they don't go around lying to science-literate people and trying to force their brand of faith in our science classes. The cool thing about Matt is he somehow managed to summarize this entire video in the title using emojis. With all that said, let's go off the rails on this crazy train.
I wanted to do a video about the top 5 proofs of a young universe and just demonstrate that the universe is not 13.7 billion years old like people have said, but that it's actually young and was created recently. And the first reason that we know this is because of short period comets.
In case you don't know, a short period comet is what happens when you respond to one of Matt's videos and then he deletes it.
Now, if you're not sure what those are, they are balls of ice that are floating about in space right now, and they deteriorate in less than 10,000 years.
It's easy to see why Matt's confused about this one. He's assuming the ones we know about have always been in an orbit where they're close enough to the sun to melt and have those pretty tails we can see. There are a number of reasons these things get knocked out of their stable orbits and sent into the inner solar system.
And so short period comets are all over our galaxy, all over the solar system, and they're going about in an orbit and they are deteriorating over time. And if our solar system was 4.5 billion years old, those things would not even exist. They would have completely deteriorated by now.
That's a cool story, bruh, but what part of knocked, nudged, or tugged out of a stable orbit and into a decaying orbit don't you understand? Creationists always do this thing where they know more about the science than the experts and misunderstand things on a 4th grade level.
The second proof is simply the planet Pluto. Pluto is warm on the inside.
Whatever you say.
Now, if Pluto was from 4.5 billion years ago, when it finally was created back then, it would be freezing cold on the inside. There's no way that something could just stay that warm.
Of course, another fundamental misunderstanding of the universe around us due to a poor education from a homeschool vending machine propaganda creationist mill.
For that long, for the course of 4.5 billion years.
What was I thinking?
Pluto is covered with frozen water that's mixed with methane called clathrate. It insulates 10 times better than ice, locking in latent heat and heat from radiometric decay. The low pressure of atmosphere around it doesn't let heat radiate away like here on Earth. Matt would have you think the old universe would have died of a heat death long before I crawled out of my daddy's goo.
So this proves that we did not start off as goo. If you came to my house and saw a hot cup of coffee on the table, you would never assume that that cup of coffee was 4.5 billion years old. I'm sorry, it would have cooled off over the course of just 10 minutes.
No shit, Sherlock.
I'm loving that beautiful dichotomy. My cup of coffee got cold, therefore Pluto young.
But people have no problem believing that things happen to stay warm for 4.5 billion years.
Creationists love talking about that thermodynamics, but they just don't get it. We could take Matt's cup of coffee, put it in a bottle, put in some radioactive rocks, put it in a vacuum chamber, suck out all the air, and it would stay warm for a really long time. Now let's make that the size of our moon, insulated, have things crash into it, it was hot to begin with, and sit here and try to tell me that Pluto is like a hot cup of coffee. This guy can't be serious, right?
It takes a lot of faith. The third reason is the planet Saturn. I mean, Saturn's rings are unstable. Saturn's rings are actually dispersing right now as we speak, and before long, those rings will be completely gone.
Yep, the rings of Saturn are doomed, yo. They'll be lucky to last another 300 million years.
Now, if Saturn, the planet, and the rings around it were 4.5 billion years old, those rings would have completely dispersed and deteriorated by now. But they're still there, which means that they were created recently, not billions of years ago.
Later on, Matt's going to confuse half-lives with linear progressions again. It really blows my mind, and I wish he'd given me an explanation, but no, he just says shit as if it's true. And it's like he has no understanding of what he's talking about.
Now, if Saturn, the planet, and the rings around it were 4.5 billion years old, those rings would have completely dispersed and deteriorated by now.
Keep in mind, Matt thinks Saturn was snapped into existence 6,000 years ago, and because a monkey ate fruit, Yahweh punished Saturn's rings or something. The reality is science doesn't pretend to know everything, and if there is any honest debate whatsoever over the age of the rings, I don't get to go around and say, "Nuh-uh, Jesus done it." That's incredibly dishonest.
But they're still there, which means that they were created recently, not billions of years ago.
Well, if Matt says so, then it must be true. It doesn't matter that his high school teacher was a DVD player and his homeschooling curriculum propaganda was all about Jesus in his science classes.
The fourth reason is simply stars. Now, a star will die 1 per 25 years per galaxy. And so, if the galaxy was less than 10,000 years old, we would predict to only find about 200 dead stars in our galaxy.
Let's try to unpack that stupidity using Matt's own numbers. In 6,000 years, only 200 stars have died, meaning that every 30 years a star dies in our galaxies. And I think Matt pulled that number out of his ass because my 2-minute Google search showed more like 3,000 stars have died in our galaxy since Matt thinks the universe was created.
And sure enough, that's what we find. We find less than 200 dead stars in the galaxy.
It's estimated 52 stars die per century. That's 3,000 plus stars since Matt thinks the universe was spoken into existence, fully formed with black holes, white dwarfs, supernova, rings, comets. And why not just admit it, Matt? God would have had to make the universe look older than it is for you to blame all this on a monkey eating fruit in a garden somewhere.
If you look at other galaxies, you'll only find about 200 dead stars in each galaxy, which means
our star, aka the Sun, is a third-generation star, meaning that it formed with heavier elements made from other stars that had already exploded or crashed into each other. It's super easy to ignore the evidence and say, "Nuh-uh, me book says a thing."
if evolution were true and if the evolutionary timescale of billions of years was taking place, you would have hundreds of thousands of dead stars throughout the entire universe.
What Matt just said is dumb on so many levels. There are billions to trillions of galaxies out there. Some went dark, we can't even see them. Others are dim because they're not making new stars. Another thing creationists do is try to conflate biological evolution with stellar chronology, as if all of these various fields of science are lying to each other and misinterpreting the various data because we want an excuse to deny Jesus. Here's the thing, I could care less. My worldview isn't contingent on the age of the universe. Nothing changes for me if we're wrong about it, and I need something more than Matt's feels to be convinced of that.
The fact that you find only 200 dead stars per galaxy literally proves beyond any shadow of doubt that the galaxies, and our galaxy in particular, the Milky Way, is a young galaxy.
The Milky Way is very old. It started forming shortly after the Big Bang, and I guess you could listen to Obi-Wan about all this.
So what I told you was true from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Now the fifth and most powerful reason is actually the magnetic field of the Earth and other planets.
I'll bet you a Coke and a smile Matt's about to screw this one up.
See, magnetic fields are actually what keep our planets, and keep the Earth in particular, from being bombarded with space dust.
Bombarded with space dust is something a 40-year-old man says who doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. The magnetic field protects us against high energetic particles called radiation. Maybe I'm being pedantic, but when someone says something dumb, I gotta call it out. Debris, dust, things like that burn up because of friction with the atmosphere.
If the magnetic field was too strong, we would die. If it's too weak, we would die. It has to be just right in order to protect us from issues from outer space or sunlight, deadly radiation coming through.
I'll be outside.
And so the Earth's magnetic field in particular is very important, and it is vital to our survival.
Fucking shit!
The half-life of the Earth's magnetic field is actually 1,400 years.
I think I'm following along. It wasn't Noah's Bodhi flood thing. It was the magnetic field of the Earth that wiped out humanity.
And so what that means is that every 1,400 years, the Earth's magnetic field gets chopped in half.
Baby, that's not how this works. No, that's not how this works.
Like I've said in other videos, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge called and says you ain't got a clue what you're talking about. Creationists always think of everything as a slope going in one direction or another. A magnetic field, rings, comets, star deaths. The reality is graphs have curves.
It was slivering this way and that. It was all fucked up.
Like I said, the sun's rays will penetrate the Earth's atmosphere and kill everything on the Earth.
You lied.
I exaggerated.
Hours instead of days. Now we have minutes instead of hours.
With the half-life being only 1,400 years, you take that back, even 10,000 years. If you were to go beyond 10,000 years, the Earth's magnetic field would be so powerful that it would literally kill everything on Earth as well.
Got a commendation for original thinking.
The Earth's magnetic field would be so powerful that it would literally kill everything on Earth as well.
Who's in charge here?
So, no matter how the evolutionists or atheists want to play this game of millions and billions of years, it's not going to go their way. Because truly, the facts are on our side. Observation is on our side. Everything that we see in the solar system actually demonstrates
Nothing can stop the
the Earth and the universe and the galaxies. The entire world is young and was created recently and not billions of years ago.
Walled up!
He's stealing second.
No, stop it!
If that was Matt's conclusion, here's mine. Nuh-uh. The observations, science, evidence, interpretations here on Earth and out in space all disagree with Matt. And he's the one trying to cope, misunderstand, lie, misrepresent the facts because he's got an old book of answers that requires it. If it's like he says it is, I've read too many other books and watched too much television.
We're playing this game according to Master Jack's rules. Bad form. Sit down now. Let's resume the game.